The murdered schoolteacher was on a 5-minute walk to the pub, say police. Sabrina Nessa was on her way to meet a friend for a Friday night drink, but she never arrived.
Maybe you saw someone acting strangely inside the park or running away from it. If you were in the area, please think back and let us know if you have any information.
Also this lunchtime, price rises in the pipeline. Consumers whose companies have gone bust will have to pay higher tariffs. Why campaigners wanted to change the abortion laws, which they say discriminate against people with Down syndrome. Eamon Holmes joins me live to talk about his personal battle with shingles and why you should know the symptoms. And the very 007 way that Daniel Craig celebrated getting the role of James Bond. He reveals what he did.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Chris Shipp.
Hello, good afternoon. The sister of the murdered primary school teacher Sabrina Nessa has called her beautiful, talented and caring as police this morning stepped up their hunt for her killer. Sabrina was murdered on Friday in southeast London at some point during what detectives say was just a 5-minute journey between her home and a pub where she was due to meet a friend. Her killer is still at large. A recent report following the murder of Sarah Everard referred to an epidemic of violence against women. And here again is a community left mourning for another woman who has been murdered. Charlotte Cross has the latest.
Flowers left in honour of 28-year-old teacher Sabrina Nessa. She had been on her way to a pub to meet a friend, less than half a mile from her home in South London. But she never arrived. Police today released details of her final journey. She left her home in Astle Road in Kidbrooke just before 8:30 Friday evening, headed for the depot bar nearby. Police believe she was attacked as she walked through Cater Park, where her body was found almost a day later.
Maybe you saw someone acting strangely inside the park or running away from it. If you were in the area, please think back and let us know if you have any information.
Yesterday, her cousin was among those who left flowers at the scene. He said Sabrina's parents were heartbroken.
They're inconsolable. There's no words you can say.
Her sister has also paid tribute, calling Sabrina beautiful, talented and caring. My inspiration to always put myself first and never let anybody put me down, she said. Never in my life did I, or my sisters, or my mum and dad think this could happen to us. 6 months on from the murder of Sarah Everard, Sabrina's death once again calling into focus the problem of violence against women.
We're having the same conversations, we're talking about the same, concerns that women have, the same conversations that police and other public authorities are having.
At the time Sabrina was attacked, police say the park would have been busy with dog walkers and joggers. It's hoped at least one of them saw something. Charlotte Cross, ITV News.
Chloe Keady is in Kidbrooke in south east London where this happened. Chloe, you've been speaking to people there this morning. I know police have been handing out alarms. Is it possible to sort of sum up how people are feeling?
Well, worried, I think I would say. As you might expect, there are a lot of homes around this park, a lot of people that use it every day, if not multiple times a day. And everyone I've spoken to here this morning says they no longer feel safe walking through it. One woman I spoke to was with her son. She said she'd asked him to go with her to the supermarket, a short walk, a 5-minute walk away, because she felt uneasy about going on her own. Just to give you a sense of the geography, Sabrina's believed to have walked from her home in Astle Road, which is next to the park, a couple of minutes walk in that direction. And the pub she was going to is just a few minutes walk out the other side of the park in that direction. That should have taken about 5 minutes in total. But police said today that they believe Sabrina was approached by an individual and attacked. They believe they were asked if it was a stranger. They believe it was a stranger that attacked her, and they said that is a line of inquiry they are looking at. Now, her body was found in that section of the park nearly 24 hours later. And they did say this morning that she wasn't reported missing during that time. Now, the police insisted that women are safe on the streets, but a lot of the women I've spoken to here this morning say that isn't how they feel.
OK, Chloe, thank you for that update. Customers of energy suppliers which collapse under the current gas price hike will face having to pay more for gas and electricity when they move to new companies. It means their cheap tariffs will not be guaranteed. There are ongoing fears that more suppliers will not be able to survive. Two collapsed just yesterday. The government says it will not step in to help those struggling firms. Our political reporter Shihab Khan reports.
Wholesale energy prices going through the roof has had a major impact on people around the country. Some suppliers are struggling to honour the deals they've given consumers and are now going bust. Energy companies Green and Avro are the latest, and one of their customers, Carl Hodgson, now faces higher bills with the company he has automatically been moved on to.
I don't have a lot of leftover income every month. I try and use what I do have to go and do stuff with my son. And if my bills do rise, I'll just have to juggle what I can do each month in terms of that, and look at what I spend on my shopping and on other things.
Ministers this morning were clear. The government cannot guarantee people's previous deals.
The government doesn't guarantee the price deals that they've been on before, because inevitably there's every chance that if they were on a low tariff that can't be maintained by that company, it's not going to be sustainable. We have the energy price cap, which will cap their prices, keep them as low as possible.
Today in the House of Commons, the Business Secretary reiterated that point, but also warned more companies would go bankrupt.
There are more than 50 suppliers in the domestic market, and we may, unfortunately, see more suppliers exit the market in the coming weeks. And government, I repeat, will not be bailing out failed energy companies.
With the £20 uplift of universal credit going in a couple of weeks, Labour say this will put pressure on many.
Instead of warm words or platitudes, can he now tell the British people how he can possibly justify this attack on their living standards? Isn't the truth there can be no defence for it, and the only right, proper and fair thing to do is to cancel the cut?
Tory backbenchers today urged the government to pursue an alternative to help those who may struggle.
We did it for the hospitality industry, which was badly affected by COVID-19. Why don't we abolish VAT for consumers on fuel now?
Surely the Conservative answer to this is to reduce VAT on energy bills, something that was pledged by those who supported Brexit in the EU referendum.
Pressure is mounting on the government to not only deal with this crisis, but to also minimise the financial impact on each and every one of us. Shihab Khan, ITV News, Westminster.
Emma Pinchbeck is the Chief Executive of Energy UK, and as you can see, she joins me now. I mean, Emma, the government said earlier this week that customers could take their special deal tariffs with them to their new suppliers. That changed this morning, effectively saying to people, whatever happens here, you're facing much higher prices.
I don't actually know the comment that you're referring to, but the existing mechanism in place for what happens when a retailer fails is more nuanced than that, in that the supplier that takes on customers from a failed retailer then has to go out and buy energy for those customers. So quite often the actual tariff can't be honoured because they've got to buy energy at whatever the price is in the market as those customers arrive. And obviously right now the price is very high, so it's likely that the energy costs will be high of taking on additional customers. However, what normally then happens is once you're with a new supplier and you've got your security of supply established, you can of course switch, and there are tariffs available. I think though the message for everyone is the prices are really high at the moment, so of course we've seen tariffs go up. The government also mentioned, though, that there is a price cap, and while the price cap is in place, we are, regulating tariffs to keep them as cheap as possible for customers in the market. But it's a very, very challenging time for everyone. The industry is really trying to do what it can to make sure no one gets left without supply, and then it's going to try and do what it can to make sure that the impacts of these high prices don't affect bills too much.
OK, Emma, I want to ask you about the price cap in a minute, but you would have heard in Shihab's report there, a lot of Conservative MPs were saying that they should deal with this issue of VAT on energy, which they said would be a good way of reducing prices, no matter what happens to the hike in gas prices. What's your view on that?
There are two really big issues at play at the moment in the market. One is making sure that the retail market is in a position to take on any customers who find that they are without supply. So that's the biggest challenge at the moment. And so far, we've seen companies stepping up and coming forward and taking on customers of any businesses that don't make it. But I think with the market being like it is, there's probably more that we need to do there. The other conversation, which I think we're coming back to now after a few days where it hasn't been discussed, is what we can do to keep bills down. VAT is one thing, but the government could also look at the levies that are on bills, which are to do with government policy, and consider removing those and try and keep bills down that way. Lastly, anyone who's very worried about paying their bill this period can give their supplier a call. When we saw prices rising earlier in the year, the industry actually put up some additional support for particularly vulnerable customers this year, over and above what they're already regulated to do, and of course the price cap. So please do contact your supplier or a consumer body.
OK, I was going to ask you about energy price cap, but we're out of time. I'm sure we'll get time to do that at some point in the future. But thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programme this lunchtime. And meanwhile, the Bank of England has warned that inflation will rise in the coming months because of those higher energy bills and rising prices. This has kept interest rates at their record low of 0.1% since March 2020 because of the impacts of the pandemic. And the Prime Minister has urged world leaders to stop being adolescents, as he put it, and show that humans are capable of learning and maturing to take responsibility for the destruction of the planet. He was giving his address at the UN General Assembly in New York on the final stop of his busy trip to the US. 3 people, including a woman with Down syndrome, today lost their attempt at the High Court to have the abortion laws changed. They were challenging the law which permits terminations beyond the legal 24-week limit if there is a substantial risk of the baby having Down syndrome. They argued it was discriminatory. One of the claimants in the case is Lea Wilson, her mother, who has a son called Aidan. He has the condition. She joins me now from the High Court. You didn't win the High Court. You didn't go the way you wanted it to, but I suspect this isn't the end of your fight.
Absolutely, no. I mean, the judgment didn't go the way that we wanted it to today, and it's incredibly hurtful and disappointing. However, we will keep fighting. You know, this is a civil rights movement. This is about equality, and this is about people with Down syndrome and other disabilities being viewed as equals in the eyes of the law. You know, I've got 2 sons who I love and I value equally, and this judgment effectively today has said that they're not equals in the eyes of the law. So I will keep fighting for my son.
Your son was diagnosed with a condition at, I think, 35 weeks pregnancy. You must therefore understand that what the High Court had to consider today was the right of the unborn child versus the right of a mother to make a very difficult decision.
Yes, I mean, I do understand that it is a really difficult time to receive that news, especially at a late stage of pregnancy. And, you know, this court case fundamentally wasn't looking to restrict a woman's right to choose or restrict her access to abortion. We want to remove Section 11D of the Abortion Act, which is about the characteristics of the fetus and has nothing to do with the rights or the well-being of the mother. There is actually another section of the Abortion Act, Section 11C, which allows abortion up to full term. But that assessment is based on the mother and her sort of physical and mental well-being. And she could, in theory, procure an abortion up to full term if she felt that having a child with a disability really would have such a negative impact. And we really feel that removing Section 11D of the Abortion Act would, you know, it would signal that we do value people with disabilities on an equal footing.
Now, Heidi Krauser, who brought this case with you, has Down syndrome, and I think it was argued that she has a very full life. She has her own apartment, she recently got married, she's been studying. I suppose some of this might come down to the fact that attitudes to disability have changed a lot since this law first was designed in 1967.
I mean, absolutely. Back in 1967, people with Down syndrome were institutionalised. They weren't offered medical care in the same way that a typically developing person would be. There wasn't early intervention. You know, I don't really like to kind of reduce this case to abilities or not, because I don't think we should be making a judgment about the value or worth of a human life based on what they are or are not able to do. But it is true the prospects for a person with Down syndrome are so vastly different today, and I believe that we have a very full and exciting life to look forward to with our son Aidan.
OK, well, listen, we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. Thank you very much indeed. Still to come, as he bows out of the role, what a very James Bond thing did Daniel Craig do when he got the job? But first, 1 in 4 people will get shingles in their lifetime, but very few of us know the basic facts about the disease. This was true of TV presenter Eamon Holmes. It never occurred to him that he could be at risk of developing the viral rash until he was struck down with shingles 3 years ago. He had sores on his face and eyelids, as well as intense shooting, stabbing pain. Eamon is now trying to raise awareness of shingles so that people are better prepared to spot the signs. And Eamon is with us now. Eamon, normally I think you're off air when you present this morning, so thank you for interrupting your lunch break to be with us today. Talk me through about this issue of symptoms. I think if I was waking up this morning, I don't think I could have told you the symptoms of shingles.
No, neither could I. Let me ask you this, Chris. Have you had chickenpox?
I have.
Well, then you have a 90% chance of getting shingles. And that's the thing about it. And it will start with an itch, a redness, the idea that there's something going to happen here. And then these blisters pop up. And the horror shots you see from me, I'm like something from a Hammer horror movie. It was on my face, around my eyes there. And the doctors are most concerned about that because it could impair your vision, and that was the big worry. I mean, normally people would get this on the side of their body or a belt across the back of their body, but it's similar in nature. If people suffer from cold sores or herpes simplex on their lips, it's a similar type of blister to that, and it takes a week or so to come about. It's on your face or your body for a couple of weeks, and it'll certainly take another at least 7 days or so to die down after that. And I was treated with strong antibiotics. The main problem, Chris, was at that particular time was that that was my son's wedding day, and I was obviously going to be sent to a lot of the pictures, and it was not the day to get all this. That's Declan and his wife Jenny there. No. But you notice I'm cut out of the picture. But the older you get as well, the more at risk of this that you are. If you're 50 years of age or over, that's a big problem as well. And basically, the whole idea is to set up just an information website about this, understandingshingles.co.uk, with the pharmaceutical company GSK, just to let people know if they're at risk.
Now, we're lucky enough to have your face on our TV screens regularly, and actually you had to pull out of your presenting duties, I believe, when you woke up and saw what had happened. You just mentioned your son's wedding as well. Those are the short-term impacts. What about the long-term ones?
Hopefully nothing too much to worry about. As I say, in my situation, my eyes were a worry. That was a big worry for the doctors, not to spread it there, so they hit me hard with antibiotics. You don't really want it on your face or around your eyes. Once you've had it, the good news is you're highly unlikely to have it again. But as I say, the real danger factor is people knowing if they've had chickenpox or not, and so many of us don't. I mean, I had to phone my 92-year-old mother to find out, Mum, have I had chickenpox before? And, she was able to tell me. So, there shouldn't be long-term implications.
Now, I'm trying to see the side of your face where you had it. It's all looking okay. It's all healed up now, is it? I mean, what side is it?
Any scars that exist? No, I'm fine. There was no legacy or anything from that. I was very, very lucky.
Listen, we think everyone, needs to know the potential impacts and the symptoms as well. And we appreciate you joining us this lunchtime to talk about it. Eamon, always lovely to chat to you. Thank you very much for being here.
Cheers, Chris. Thanks very much.
Now, the supermodel Linda Evangelista has claimed she's been left permanently deformed after an adverse reaction to a cosmetic procedure. Explaining her disappearance from the public eye, the 56-year-old said she'd been left unrecognisable following the treatment 5 years ago. In a post on social media, she said it had destroyed her livelihood and sent her into a cycle of deep depression. Finally from me, as Daniel Craig prepares to make his final appearance as the world's most famous spy, the actor has revealed how he celebrated the news he'd landed the role of a lifetime as James Bond. It was true to the character he went on to play, as Faye Barker explains.
A perfect way to toast the role with a drink perhaps as famous as the man.
Vodka martini, shaken or stirred?
Do I look like I give a damn?
A martini, shaken not stirred.
It's a line used by Sean Connery as the first Bond.
Shaken not stirred.
And again.
Shaken, not stirred.
And again.
Martini, shaken, not stirred.
By those who played 007 over 6 decades.
Why would I betray you?
We all have our secrets.
As Daniel Craig hits our screens for the last time as Bond, he's revealed what happened when he first plunged into the role 15 years ago.
I couldn't get my head around any of it, and still didn't really believe it. I was in the supermarket buying groceries, and the phone went, and Barbara said, "Over to you, kiddo." And I was like, okay, right. I mean, I got drunk. That's what I did. I went and bought a bottle of vodka and a bottle of vermouth and a cocktail shaker and made myself 3 or 4 vodka martinis.
Since Casino Royale in 2006, Daniel Craig's dragged Bond into current times. And when it came to the actor's last day on set, it was emotional.
I've loved every single second of these movies, and especially this one, because I've got up every morning and I've had the chance to work with you guys. And that has been one of the greatest honours of my life.
So who'll be the next Bond?
I have to finish this.
Well, that's something to be answered another day. Faye Barker, ITV News.
And that's it, we're done. Charlene White is here with the evening news at 6:30. The latest where you are follows the national weather, but from everyone here, bye-bye.